Good afternoon, Xavier Musketeer basketball fans. We're here on the Razor Show. Jeff Zink and Jim Reaker talking about Muskies basketball. And it's been a semi-quiet week, but lots of things on the horizon. So, Jim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy December, Jeff. 25 days till Christmas.
25 days, able to shave off my no-shave November beard this morning and be fresh-faced again. So all you guys out there that don't know what no-shave November is, it's a reminder to try to get a health check for men. And the rest of the world, they sometimes call that Movember, where they grow a mustache to do men's health. It's kind of the men's version of Pink October. So, but now let's get back to some the Xavier basketball. Pretty much a quiet week. Had two games, but one of them was a repeat. They had playing Northern Iowa. From what I understand, and you would probably know better with your history of the team, Jim, that they'd never played each other, and then they ended up playing each other twice in 1 week after being matched up in the Pro Tire Invitational. But two very different outcomes. The first game, Xavier did win 67-59, but back here at home it was a 64-42 blowout. So what do you sort of attribute to the difference in those games? Was it just playing a team for a second time? Was it home court advantage? Or maybe something we've been anticipating, which is the return of Kaiser Gates?
Well, I'm going to attribute it to the coaching staff of Xavier. This is, I believe, Chris Mack's 7th year, and he's got an excellent staff. And I think, they had so much film on him. They watched him play 3 times down in Florida, once against themselves. They had all that film. And I just think this coaching staff is just excellent, knowing what they were going to do and then coming up with a game plan to improve their performance on when I believe that was Tuesday night. No, that was last Saturday, actually. One thing I think that you have to take into account here is the fact that they had him at home too, and so that's what I believe. Kaiser Gates, he only played 11 minutes, and I think in the first minute he was in there, he had 2 fouls and did not score in that game. But I think the attention to detail, and that really excites me because if they can execute what the coaching staff has prepared for them each and every game, I think it's going to be a special season for the Muskies.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out when we get a little later in the program about some strong opponents coming up. The other team we played this week was North Dakota State. I mean, I don't think we really expected much from that, and the Muskies rolled easily to a 30-point win, 85-55. North Dakota State known more for their football prowess in what's called the FCS, I believe now. It used to be called Division II. But gave the Muskies a little break going into Atuska. I'm sure you were down there. What'd you come away with from the game against North Dakota State?
Well, one of the things they were concerned with is it was kind of a different offense that they were on. They were on a weave. They kind of like to speed the game up, and that concerned Coach Mack. And the other thing I heard him talk about, I heard the players talk about it in their press conference, and I heard Coach Mack talk about it also, is they had a man or a player coming into the game who was shooting 80% from the three-point line. And so they were very, very aware of him. Again, on to the point that I think the Muskies prepare. They see something. They talk about how they're going to stop it. A.J. Jacobson, that was the player for North Dakota State who was shooting at that clip. He was 0 for 1 from the three-point line and scored no points all night against the Muskies. So, again, I think they were challenged, by the coaches to say, hey, this guy can shoot if you let him, stand open. And I think that's been a big and I think, again, back to the Northern Iowa game, the perimeter defense has been really good. In that Northern Iowa game, they only allowed them 12 points in the first half. 12 points. You got to go all the way back to the 1982-83 season to find a game where Xavier held their opponent to less points in the first half.
Interesting stuff. Xavier obviously on a roll, but they got a couple of tough opponents coming up here, and one in particular is a team that was off the charts. They weren't even in the top 25, but now have come through. They beat 3 teams in the top 25 in their first 7 games. That, of course, we're talking about the Baylor Bears. Usually when we're talking Baylor basketball, we're talking about their strong women's program, but they came in and had an early upset against Oregon, which has fallen off the charts now, even though it started number 4, but they've also beat Michigan State. and a tough Louisville squad. So they come in at number 9 in most rankings with the Muskies number 7. So it looks like it's going to be one of the toughest games of the year so far from the Musketeers. Give everybody a little preview of what to expect with this Baylor game.
Well, Baylor, the Muskies have seen the Bears a few times in recent years. The last time, you may recall, it was in a Sweet 16 game. That was in, I believe it was 2012. And it was, I think it ended up a 5-point game, but I remember watching that game that it really wasn't that close. The Baylor Bears were much more athletic than the Musketeers were at that time, and you never felt like the Musketeers had much a chance of winning that game. But this is a program that if you look back, ever since they had a problem with the basketball program down there about 15 years ago, some scandals and stuff. And they brought in Scott Drew of the Drew family, Homer Drew, Bryce Drew, Valpo fame, to take over the program. It took him about 3 years, but for the last 10, 11 years, they have been a consistent winner in the Big 12. In fact, coming into this season, they have 5 straight 20-game winning seasons. They have been to the NCAA the last 3 years, and actually the year before that, the last year they didn't make the NCAA. They were invited to the NIT, and all they did was win that. So they come with a lot of experience, kind of like Xavier, a program right there, to be one of the, top programs. So this is going to be an interesting game. As far as personnel, they actually lost 3 of their best players. Tareen Prince, who actually is in the NBA now, Rico Gathers, who was actually drafted into the NFL, so they could tell you what kind of player he was. And they also lost their point guard from last year. But obviously, their fill-ins have played very, very well. And, in fact, this is going to be a big challenge for Xavier because, we've talked about the bigs being replaced with Sean O'Mara, Rasheed Gaston, and Tariq Jones. This is going to be their toughest challenge. Their leading scorer is a player named Jonathan Motley, who is averaging about 18 points a game and 7 rebounds. And he's 6'9", 6'10", about 230, 240, very athletic. So that's going to be a big challenge for those guys underneath. The other main player that's really helped out, and there was kind of a question mark coming in, was a transfer from Miami, Manu Lecomte. And he has run the show. He actually was kind of more of a shooting guard down in Miami, but he's become the point guard for them, which they thought was one of their major losses. Lester Medford was their point guard from last year, and he's not back. And but he's done an excellent job while scoring 13 points a game. He's actually from Belgium. So this is going to be a tough game for the Musketeers. And actually it's going to be a high-profile game. It's going to be on ESPN2, 2 undefeated teams going at it.
Yeah, and well, unfortunately, it is going to be played down in Waco with Baylor, and something I've noticed that I think the Muskies will have to deal with is they have 6 players averaging 20 minutes or more. So Coach Drew's got a strong rotation going in the steps of his father and what they all established at Valpo, making it a total team game. Everybody tune in and see what happens. It could be very well played game.
I think, and this is where I don't expect Kaiser Gates to play more than 15 minutes on Saturday, but yeah, that will help the Musketeers. One of the weaknesses early on with him being out with the minor knee surgery he had, and Miles Davis, of course, not being on the team, is they were basically rotating 8 guys. And in this day and age, in a Division I program, that's kind of what you would call thin a little bit. A lot of teams like about 10 deep now. So, and he had a much better game against
Still there, Jim?
And a little bit better on defense. I'm still here. That was just a house phone.
I was going to say maybe Publishers Clearinghouse calling and you won't have to do these anymore. You'll be off on vacation.
So I look for Kaiser to help him out a little bit, and I think it's going to be a slow return for him. Another major improvement this week I didn't talk about earlier was Edmund Sumner. And he only scored 5 points the other night against North Dakota State, but he had no turnovers. And he also had 7 assists. And actually that's been his line for the last 2 games. is no turnovers and 7 assists. We were a little alarmed, and maybe it was just getting going in the season, but he was averaging 5 turnovers a game the first 4 games, and that was a little bit of a surprise, but it looks like he's got his game together to play and take control of the ball. You know, he is the point guard, especially, you know, the Gooden boy, Quentin Gooden. He's been playing a good backup point guard, but you're not sure you want to throw him into a situation it's like it's going to be Saturday. You know, 10,000 fans in a different color screaming at you.
I think they can handle it. Why don't we shift gears for a minute and talk about the Big East? And we talked about that in one of our earlier shows, and it seems like there could be more of a power than most people expected them to be. You know, Xavier, of course, we talk about all the time. Villanova looking at number 2. Creighton, who surprised a couple people early, now is in the top 10. They started at number 22, but Butler's also stuck in there. So we got 4 teams still undefeated, and the conference right now is 4-3 against top 25 teams. What does this mean for the Musketeers moving forward when they start conference play on December 28th?
Well, you always, during the non-conference part of your schedule, you want to see your conference mates win games, because that's going to factor into what we call the RPI, which we know the committee looks deep at who you've played and how those teams have done. So I think this bodes good vibes for the Musketeers. You know, they know that they don't have to go undefeated or only lose a game or 2 in the league. You know, they know with a 10-6 record or a 12-4 record that they'll be solidly in the tournament. Another thing, each one of those 4 schools you mentioned that are all 7-0 as of this morning, they all won their exempt event too, which we know most of those have elite teams in it. So, you know, this is boding well for the Big East. They once again, you know, when they made that switch, when some of the teams left to go to the ACC, Pitt and Syracuse, and UConn went to the American, you know, a lot of people said this isn't going to be the Big East it's been in the past. But I think they're starting to show people that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in college basketball for a long time to come. In fact, I guess non-football NCAA Division I league around.
Yep. And, of course, we have some traditional programs like Georgetown and Marquette and Providence who aren't off to a fantastic start, but have been very strong in the past. Well, that gives us a chance. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Georgetown, yeah, they're just I think they're going to be hard to read, and I just read a story this morning about the fact that I think people think they're going to be like that all year. They're going to beat some teams that you think, wow, they're pretty good, and then they're going to lose some games you're thinking they shouldn't have lost that. In fact, I read another article this week about, you know, should John Thompson III be on the hot seat? And basically the article said if he was anywhere else and his name wasn't John Thompson, he probably would be on the hot seat. But the fact that his father had so much respect that he probably is there for, it's going to have to get a lot worse. He starts to feel the heat.
Well, from a city that had to put up with a coach named Shula, in a different sport, I think that may not necessarily hold on, but I think he's going to have to prove himself this year. That gives us a chance to look forward to what Xavier's coming up with. They've got a game coming up against Colorado, which is only coming in, well, they've got another game before then, but right now they're looking at 5-2, but they did beat a Texas team that was then ranked number 22. Unfortunately, they've sort of fallen out of the 25 as Shaka Smart isn't off to the start that I'm sure he wanted down in Texas. What to expect when the Muskies go out to Xavier, and then they're going to follow that up with a home game against Utah, which lost to Butler just 68-59 a couple games ago.
Yeah, well, you know, the Colorado trip actually worries me more than going down to Baylor. I think they'll be ready for Baylor. I'm not assuring a win, but I think they'll play well. They know what they're up against. But that trip to Boulder, Colorado in the middle of the week, it's a Wednesday night game, a late Wednesday night game, and they're getting near the end of their semester down there too. So, you know, that one kind of worries me a little bit. They're a Pac-12 team. I think they were picked mid-pack in the Pac-12. So that'll be a tough game, but it'll be a good experience for them to have to, again, quick turnaround with travel time. But, you know, think about it. I'm sure they're going to fly back from Texas on Saturday night and probably turn around and get back on a plane and fly Colorado sometime probably on Tuesday to get ready for that game. So that one's going to be a tough one. And then actually that week between the Colorado and the Utah game, that is finals week for the players. You know, we talk about, are they student athletes? Well, yeah, they do have classes, and they're going to have to take tests. And I know that Coach Mack generally kind of pares practice back a little bit during finals week. So the Utah Utes will be a good team to get them back on the schneid again. And then it's kind of the time when you really can get some work in during Christmas when you have no classes and you're together all day, and you can really start to work on some things and get ready for the Big East schedule.
Yeah, the old Utah Utes, not named for my cousin Vinny, and his mispronunciation of the word Ute. But that'll be interesting. Yeah, and then I'll give Coach Mack some time to start getting prepared for, like we said, that conference schedule, which begins over that Christmas holiday on December 28th. Any final thoughts here, Jim? What else is going on?
I got trivia for you.
What a shock!
And it goes right along. It's a little bit of Xavier trivia, but a little bit of college basketball trivia. Just made me think when I was leaving Florida down there, I had a Northern Iowa fan kind of tell me, "We'll get you in Cincinnati." And I looked at him and I said, "You won't win in Cincinnati. Xavier doesn't lose in Cincinnati." So it made me do a little bit of research because I've known that, seeing the games over the years, that it's very rare that they lose in the Cintas Center. In fact, I believe the win the other night was the 26th straight non-conference win at the Cintas. And actually they have 20 straight wins, non-conference, road or neutral or home. So you got to go all the way back to 2012 when Wofford beat the Musketeers at the Cintas Center to find a team out of the conference that beat the Muskies in the Cintas Center. So I did a little bit of research. The Cintas Center, and this is just taking in the whole history of all buildings with programs around the country. The Cintas ranks third in the country right now, with the home team having the highest winning percentage there. And the Cintas opened in 2000, and the Musketeers have a 873 winning percentage at the Cintas Center. They are 213 and 31. Here's the trivia, Jeff. Can you name the other four that are in the top five? A couple of them are easy, but again, and we're only taking into account buildings. You know, sometimes programs have changed buildings recently, building some nice new arena. So I'll give you a few guesses here. I think you should get a couple, but go ahead.
Well, I thought you were just giving trivia. After listening to that, I wasn't sure a question was coming. So let me just make sure I understand the question. You're talking about home court, best winning percentage program in their current building.
Correct.
A lot of people would probably want to say Duke, but Duke's been in Cameron for so long, I'm not so sure they're in it. If you did it at the same time that they're in the Cintas Center, I would say yes, but I'll still say Duke's one of them.
That is not correct.
See, that's what I thought. They've been in Cameron way too long. I'm with you. It's got to be one of the newer buildings, and I'm not up on the different ones and what their home courts are. I would probably, another question might be North Carolina in their new building.
That would be a good guess, but that is incorrect.
No, both.
I will tell you that two of the programs are top programs.
They're not top programs?
No, they are top programs, and they both have been in their buildings for a long time. One of them forever. Well,
you're stumping me on these, so I'm just going to turn it back to you and have you inform our fans of who those great programs are.
Okay, well, we'll start with number 5. That is Wisconsin in the Kohl Center. They have 868 percentage of winning, 256 and 39. That's not a real new building, but been around a while. Here's the one I thought you would have got. Kansas, Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Number 4, 738 wins there to only 109 losses. And in fact, I think I read somewhere in the last 10 years they've maybe lost 2 non-league games there. been a while. Of course, Xavier we had at number 3. Number 2, I thought you would have guessed this one too. Not far from the Cincinnati metro area, Rupp Arena, the UK Wildcats. Almost a 900 winning percentage there. Been there a long time, though. And number 1, this one you probably would have never guessed, is a very, very new building. I think they've only been in it, well, I'm looking at their numbers versus Xavier, so they haven't even been in their building as long as the Cintas Center, and that's Gonzaga. They have a 926 winning percentage in the McCarthy Athletics Center, 3 and 13. So I stumped you.
Home is where the heart is. It's hard. Most people have great, but it's knowing those buildings. But there's some great programs, some great information there from always on top of it, Jim Reaker. All right.
Well, you caught me off guard last week. You said, "What's my trivia?" and I didn't have anything, so I felt bad. So I will make a vow that I will have a trivia question that will work your mind out. The winter's coming, so I got to keep your mind in shape.
Yeah, that's it. We don't have to. That way, we don't have to ascribe to lumosity. Well, we're going to invite you all to listen to our next Xavier podcast, which will be sometime around this time next week, and of course, catch Jim and I on our Trogcast, which will deal with all the world of men's basketball and the NCAA. We'll have another program of that out sometime early this coming week.
And again, for the fans, the game on Saturday is at 3:30, and it is going to be nationally broadcast on ESPN2. And so watch the Musketeers before you start watching all those football games that everybody's going to be talking about later this week.
All right. That's great. We thank you for listening, and Mike Goodmaster for making all of this happen. And we will hopefully have us in your ears for the next Trogcast, or come back to us for the next Razor Xavier cast next week. So we'll just say as we end, go Muskies.
Go Muskies.